What's up everybody, William2K here, and today we are back in Stoneblock 3. So today there's a few things I want to do. I went ahead and crafted a few items to go ahead and get automatic lava set up, and basically what that means is taking these lava eggs that the lava chickens are generating, which we obviously still need to hook them up over there, and while turning it into lava that our applied energistic system can use. The first thing we want to do is make a fluid cell and then go ahead and put lava in as its partition. So now that we have this partition cell for lava, we can place this in our system down in our drive down below. And once we place it in, our system is now capable of storing only lava. And it says 1024 bytes, and that means we can store 1024 buckets. All right, and we're back in the newest wing of the base, actually. I was working on this a little bit between episodes. It's basically connected from this central hub here. I dug a little down, dug a little up in that direction too. We had a couple barriers, but over time these will be moved and won't be an issue any longer. But so here's our place for our lava generation. I figured just off one of the hallways would work best and be the least intrusive. So our first step is to set up our fluid tank, which, well, there it is. And the next step is these item drains. I went ahead and made 3 slots in the walls to place these, and connected to each one of these we are going to need 2 items. We need a ME export bus and fluid pipes. I'm gonna put the export buses on the back sides, as we can use facades to cover these later, whereas the fluid pipes will go on the ground. Now that we have our fluid pipes set up, let me explain how the system's actually going to work. So with the lava eggs, the way I found that would be easiest is to pipe them into these item drains. Once piped into the item drains, they should automatically turn into lava, which then we can use these to export that lava, send it across the hallway to our tank. Once in the tank, we can store it in here temporarily, and then send the rest through an ME interface into our ME system. I decided the tank would be cool just for the looks, as functionally it doesn't serve too much of a purpose. After getting all the wires ran, this is what we end up with. So our export bus is back here in the back, which I've covered with cable facades. Pipe the lava eggs into the item drains, as I previously explained. It sends it on over to here. And as we can see, the lava is popping in and out as it comes in here for a temporary buffer and then is immediately sent into the AE system. Over here at our ME system, we can see that we are slowly gathering lava. We currently have 1,871 buckets. The next step is to actually automate the process of getting some of the ingredients for this, such as the uranite and the capacitors, as they all need a certain resource such as energized steel, blazing crystals, etc., etc., which requires these energizing orbs and energizing rods. Let me get a few of these crafted and get them set up, and I'll be back to explain how it all works. Alrighty, a little bit of crafting later, and clearing out a little bit of an area, running our cable all the way around our room to here, and we're ready to set some things up. So the first thing that I want to do with Powah is actually automate all of our resources so that we don't have to craft it by hand every single time we want something. So for that, I went ahead and made 6 pattern providers, but for right now we're only going to use 4, as well as 6 of these energizing rods. Again, only going to be using 4. I had a little bit of an oversight and we don't need as many, but same with the import buses, we put those on. And now we need to be very smart about how we connect all of this, because that's a channel and that's a channel. And so we can do about half on one channel, half on another. And then we're gonna have to use some anchors to separate it so that these two don't connect, because this here will overload, I believe. I guess it's pretty smart. So there we go. So now we have all of this connected. I went ahead and made a few facades to place here to maintain the neatness. And really all that's left is going to be giving these things their recipes. So let me head on back to the pattern provider. after this gets cleaned up a little bit and give them their recipes. And then we should be good to go to continue with, well, getting Powah set up. And not only Powah, but automating the Powah resources as well. Funny enough, while I was crafting these things or getting these patterns ready, the system was actually dying. It seems as if we were running out of power. What I'm doing here is I'm just hiding the access to this pattern terminal so it's not accessible, as I don't want to be able to see it in my pattern viewer when I go in to add more patterns. Let's cover that on up. Go ahead and add our pillar, and there we go. This should essentially be a, well, auto crafting for our items. Now the problem with this is that as I was crafting, we were actively running out of power. Our little lava setup up here does not seem to be able to withstand the amount of power that we're using, as it most certainly looks like we've ran out. The next thing that I want to do is start looking at the reactor, which also needs a few things to run. One thing it needs is this uraninite, which we went ahead and processed up a few stacks of it already. But that's the easy part. The next thing it's going to need, redstone. Again, the easy part. The hard part comes in here. Dry ice is the most efficient way to cool the system. However, to make it, we need another energizer, which is why we have the 6th one. However, for that, we need blue ice, which, well, we can use Botania with a pure daisy. But that seems to be about it outside of crafting packed ice, which we can get with bulk washing normal ice, which finally we can get in the blast chiller, which again needs packed ice. Luckily we made some packed ice earlier on in the series, so it shouldn't be much of an issue. But this is yet another system we will have to make and automate for the reactor. And we're back. So after a little bit of crafting and a full inventory of resources, I believe that I'm finally ready to get this system, the show on the road. So on one side here, we're going to do charcoal blocks. On the other side here, we're going to do redstone blocks. And then here is where our dry ice production is going to go. We are going to have barrels here for both the normal redstone blocks and the charcoal blocks. And then nested in here, if I can get some concrete to place it down, we're going to have a barrel for normal ice and then a barrel for dry ice. I am actually going to put a drawer controller down and use that, and then at the same time have our drawers. So our drawers are going to go there. I was able to make 3 blast chillers, so we're going to place those there on the bottom. And then back here, we are going to put an aqueous accumulator. So we want to put 1 water there, 1 there, and 1 here. This should allow the aqueous accumulator to produce water quick enough to supply these systems. On top of that, I also made a resonant integral component for all of these, so that means it will function at 4 times of its basic speed. Now the only thing we need to do is take this and pipe it in on the bottom. So set all the machine's bottom to import, grab a wrench of some kind from our handy dandy utility bag, and mess up the pipe so that we have to place it down again. And there we go. So now all these should be slowly filling with water. Definitely going to need an upgrade here. And after a quick run to the base, we have our advanced pipe upgrade, and that should make filling these much quicker. I actually want to do the controller route. So we're going to put our controller here, and instead of using these cables, we're actually going to use these. This will allow us to input more than just power from one side, as well as allowing us to transport power along with items as we do this. And there we go. So our next step after we have this ice is to put it in a bulk washer. And there it is. Our first piece of ice is on the conveyor, and once it turns into packed ice, it should flow right on into the drawers. After that, we will start the next process of our automation. So the next step after we have the packed ice is to turn it into the blue ice. Now, I figured we'd go the easy route and just use a crafter. So we're going to place our crafter down here, and we'll run these along here so that it's not in the way. And so this crafter here, if I go ahead and get 9 of these, we want a recipe to turn 9 of that into blue ice. Now whenever packed ice goes in here, it will turn it into blue ice and send it to the exporter. The final step of this is to take 2 of this blue ice and turn it into dry ice that we want for our machine. So for that we need an energizing orb, and then we need a power cable, and what are those? A laser. I'm gonna go ahead and connect that with one of those, and also connect there with one to deliver power. We'll run it over, and the system is now more or less complete. We have to go ahead and configure all of this in our controller, but besides for that, it's complete. So we'll be back in a moment when it's up and running. And long and behold, we have a working system. So, as I said, this makes the ice. This will pull the ice out, put it into the drawer, and then notice how we have a little bit of backlog here. It'll only drop onto this conveyor belt here when it has space. Otherwise, these 3 stacks, so we're processing 3 stacks of ice at the moment, will all be processed, and as they do, one by one, go on into the drawer controller, and then they will end up here, where we have 174. That 174 ice will be moved in here, which, in all honesty, I should probably make that into a stack. So here, we just have to change this to stack, and now we should see a stack, and then it turns into blue ice. I'm not particularly worried about quickly extracting the blue ice, as it only goes through here 2 at a time. I guess for simplicity's sake, we'll make that a stack as well. So now we have our 35 blue ice, and 2 at a time, as long as we have power, which we don't. Let me double check just to make sure. Oh, yep, so here I just need to add an insert for energy. And now we should have power. It allows a maximum of 2 items in here at a time, and then it supplies it with energy and turns it into dry ice. So as you can see, we have 8 dry ice in the drawer there. Now we're going to connect all this up to our ME system through this storage controller and just hook it on into this line here. So the time finally has come where we've ran out of crafting for our patterns. So as that is the case, I'm going to make a quick chest, and we're just going to stash these here. Now, back to business. So the next thing we want to do is make reactors. We're actually going to go with a blazing reactor for our first one, and I believe we need... And after all those struggles, we have our 36 reactor. All right, and I believe we're ready to go. As you see, I had to move these over to charge those, but here's our reactor. And there it is. So the reactor needs a few things. One of those being water, which we went ahead and grabbed a bucket of water. And as far as I know, this should just store it. Now the next thing we're going to need to do is, well, get underneath. But not this far underneath. As with most things, our reactor is going to require resources. One that it needs the most is the uranite, but it also needs the dry ice and the redstone and charcoal blocks that we were setting up over there. For that, we have a ME import bus. All right, it turns out that I was just being dumb and using the wrong object. So here we should be able to add our dry ice, our uranite here, our redstone block, and our charcoal block. Okay, so there we go. We don't need to supply any more water, and it'll run quite well off of that. Once we start getting the redstone and the charcoal blocks in, it'll run even better. And long and behold, there we go. I went ahead and put a flux plug on the front, and it looks like we are producing quite well. And as this is generating a whole lot more than we were before, I think that this really starts to solve our power issues. Our charcoal blocks, our redstone blocks. While this could be faster, I believe that for now we should be okay with it being this slow as we only have one reactor. Now that our power sources are more or less fixed for the time being, the last thing I wanted to do this episode is actually our AE system. I want to go ahead and set up wireless crafting. For that, we're going to need a wireless crafting terminal as well as a wireless transmitter and a ME security station. So let's go ahead and get these couple of items crafted up, and then we'll be back to set up our system. Alrighty, now we're back. So place down our security station. Go ahead and link this to it. And, well, now we got to find a way to power it. I believe we can actually just use this. Now it's probably not going to be as fast, but it should slowly charge our wireless crafting terminal up enough to be able to use it. And there we go, our wireless access point. Now we should be able to access this as well as install our infinity range booster. This will allow us to access it from anywhere in the base, regardless of the upgrades. Now we definitely will need to we'll get some power, as you saw. And to do power, we have a couple options, but I think for now, Flux Networks has a Flux controller that allows you to charge things wirelessly on your network. All it takes is a whole bunch of Flux cores and some Flux blocks. So let me get these items crafted, and then we'll be back when they're all crafted. And here is our Herculean flux storage. So these two items can really go anywhere. I might stick them over here for now. They probably won't live here forever, but for now this is where they'll be. And we have to go ahead and enable wireless charging. They aren't able to apply the charge to the inventory, but that is perfectly okay with me. And also go ahead and hook in this. So this should take in the power from the reactor, store it up. I believe it can hold something like 16 million FEs, and it's actually already halfway full. And then our flux controller should charge anything in our inventory, which, as you can see, this has been charged up almost instantly. So now we have not only a way to access our inventory or our storage system remotely, but we have our power storage and power generation problems fixed for, I would say, quite a while. Between episodes, I might craft the final version of this, which can store 128 million. Next episode, we'll be probably doing a little bit of maintenance, opening up this, getting some more auto crafting done, as these are pretty much full. We don't have any more room left. We will also be setting up automation for both of these to turn into the uranite, as right now we can smelt it for a 1-for-1, but there's also the energizing recipe, which allows us to turn uranium ingots into uranite, and it also allows us to turn 1 raw uranite into 2 uranite, or uranite-nite. My mistake. It's about that time, so thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for sticking around with me throughout this this learning experience. And I hope y'all enjoyed. See you later.